Good morning guys and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to film the part 2 of my pregnancy and delivery videos. So this is the second part. This is talking about my labor and delivery with Isaiah here. So Isaiah was born on June 13th, but my labor and everything actually started on June 11th. We were scheduled to be induced. I went in at 7:45 that night to start our induction. We had chosen the seaweed method. I believe it was called Lemuria. I could be pronouncing that wrong, but it's a stick with seaweed on it that's supposed to help. It's supposed to... Stop! Get out of here. It's a stick with seaweed on it that's supposed to dissolve, and it's supposed to help ripen the cervix for starting contractions naturally. So that was the method we chose because I wanted to do natural birth as much as possible was the goal. So we went in at 7, but because they were super busy, they didn't actually get to me until 9:45. So at 9:45, I got the seaweed inserted, and I was told just to have a good night's sleep, and they would check in the morning and we would see what happened. So I woke up that morning at 3 a.m. with steady contractions. So I'm like, okay, things are going. They kept checking me. I didn't have any progression. At this point, I was already... Ow. Ow! Owie. You want something to chew on? Not my finger? You know, the seaweed's working. We're actually getting somewhere now. At this point, before I was even induced, I was 2 centimeters with 70% effaced. So things were already progressing, just not enough for being 2 weeks late. So they continued to check me from there, and nothing had changed. So at 9:45, my midwife said, okay, we need to do something to get you going. So I had to start Pitocin, which I knew at this point, this is not what I wanted to do, because I knew the waterfall effect of taking Pitocin. So I wanted to avoid it as much as possible, but at the same time, we were already late. So I did what I needed to do, and we started the Pitocin. Because I wasn't that far along at this point, they were still letting me eat, so I ordered a breakfast, but I ended up only eating half of an English muffin out of it, and my husband ate the rest because I thought things were gonna get going. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna eat something light, things are gonna get going. I really don't wanna, you know, throw up or whatever during labor. So I just ate something small. That was my first mistake. When we get pregnant again, I am definitely planning on eating, and I am going to eat something way more substantial because I think that was my biggest downfall. So at this point, the contractions were getting more regular, but it was being controlled chemically. So I would have points where the contractions were not enough, so they would up my Pitocin, and then they were just way too much. I remember specifically at one point, I had a contraction that went 5 minutes straight, and I was just... there was nothing I could do. It hurt so bad. One of the other things that was an issue was I had a lot of back labor. So anytime they put me on my back to check me, it was extremely painful. It was probably the worst pain during the whole time was anytime they had to check me. The contractions got way more intense. The pain of having the weight on my back was just unbearable. So that was the most painful part. I continued to do that for quite a while, so by Tuesday night, I was begging for a C-section. I was in so much pain. I was absolutely exhausted because I hadn't really been eating. I couldn't keep anything down. Anytime they tried to get me to drink water or eat, I would vomit it up. So I started just begging for a C-section. I can't do this anymore. I'm exhausted. I couldn't barely stand. I was dizzy. So we decided to break my water instead of waiting for it naturally. At this point, I was around 8 centimeters and mostly effaced. I think I was just about 100% effaced. So things were definitely progressing, but I couldn't do it anymore. I was spent. I was exhausted from the pain and the screaming and just the lack of fuel and energy. A half an hour after having my water broken, I was still continuing to beg for a C-section. And the midwife and the nurses were like, no, that's last resort. There's other things we can do. I'm like, okay, anything. Just tell me what we can do. So like, okay, let's get you an epidural. Which at this point, I didn't care. I was willing to take anything. I, had the dream of a natural birth, but I just didn't care. I was in so much pain. So at 10 p.m., I got the epidural, and I was 9.5 centimeters and completely effaced. So I was pretty much done, but there was absolutely no way I could push. I couldn't stand, I couldn't see, because I was so dizzy. It was not a good place. There was no way I would have successfully pushed. You want it? You want it? After getting the epidural, I passed out. I remember nothing. It was complete black. So I know I was asleep, but it was more on the side of passing out from exhaustion. They woke me up at 2 a.m. and said, okay, you're ready to push. I couldn't really feel it because of the epidural. I never pressed the button to get more of the epidural, but the amount that I had was enough to make me numb. They had to tell me when to push, and it wasn't working on my back because I started to get the back pain even with the epidural. So I ended up getting up on my knees and I continued to push that way. Are you getting fussy? So I was up on my knees and I continued to push that way. And they just had to tell me when to push, and I was pushing with everything I had. Pushing, actually, this part of the labor was not really that difficult as compared to... Are you getting done? Are we gonna have to stop and go take a nap? Are you tired? Let's go get ready for bed. The pushing was not nearly as bad as just the progressive contractions with the Pitocin, because they kept changing, and also with standing up, my back labor was really, really bad. So I continued pushing on my knees. Once I crowned, they had me turn over on my back, and it was just a few pushes and he was out. So they woke me up at 2, and he was born at 3:05 in the morning on Wednesday the 13th of June. So I pushed for probably about a half an hour, but once I was on my back, it only took about 2 or 3 pushes to completely get him out. Pushing was actually really relieving because it felt like I was doing something, but once that final push that I pushed him out, I just had this huge sense of relief. All the pain from my back was just gone. So they told me he was in the perfect position for birth, but I don't know if he was pressing on something on my back that was causing the issue. But once he was out, it was so, like, I could breathe, the pain was gone. I didn't even notice that I had tore, which I had internal tearing and external tearing. I was just so flooded with relief. Yeah. Are you ready to go to bed? Alright, boys down for a nap. Let's see if I can finish this video. So when Isaiah was born, he had his cord wrapped around his neck, so they took that off him, and then as soon as they had finished that, they placed him straight on his chest. They placed him straight on my chest for trying to breastfeed. I don't know if it was from the epidural. I've heard that it's possible, but he was really groggy, so he had issues with that. But I was so relieved and overwhelmed with the fact that he was here. It was just such a beautiful moment. I wish I would have been able to remember that more and like have video or photos. I did get a couple photos that our doula had taken, but they are not anything that I would want to share. But I do have some photos of Isaiah when he was first born that I might do a clip of at the end of this or insert them at some point. But that's kind of why I'm doing YouTube right now, is because that's my biggest regret. Like, I don't regret the fact that I had an epidural or that things didn't go as planned and that I, didn't have a home birth or whatever. My biggest regret is that I didn't capture the memories. Like, I can remember quite a bit, but there's still those small details, like just the overwhelming feelings and the in the moment stuff that you forget that I miss. That's the point of this video, is because it's only been 7 months, so it's still fresh, but as the years go on, I'm going to forget more and more things. So I wanted to take the time to share this. So I guess that is the end of my labor and delivery story. And thank you for watching, and I will see you with my next video.